I'm going to be making my meatless jerk rice. It's got all the flavors of amazing jerk chicken in a rice dish without any meat. This is one of my meatless meals, and if you know anything about me by now, if you've watched any of my videos, I really like to incorporate some meatless meals throughout our weekly rotation of meals. And I'm always looking for new ones. I'm always trying different things and trying different ways to incorporate new meatless meals because, one, meatless meals are great for our budget. I love the fact that I don't have to worry about spending extra on meat. We don't need to cook meat every single day, as well as it saves a lot of time in the kitchen. So that for me is the biggest benefit because I spend a lot of time in the kitchen already. So I have about 3 to 4 green onions here. I'm just going to finally just dice this up. I also have some ginger, garlic, cilantro, and onion. We have some spices that we'll be using. You're going to need some rice, obviously, because it is a rice dish. And I'll get to all that in a second, I guess. I'm just going to finally mince up the cilantro. This is a good handful of cilantro here. I just broke it off of my bunch that I had. I love cilantro, and I think it's a necessary flavor for me. So finally, just dice that up. I also have 4 cloves of garlic and some ginger. I'm not going to use all of this ginger. I'm just probably going to use that much right there. Just looking for about a teaspoon of grated ginger. I'm going to grate this off to the side here, as well as we're going to grate our 4 cloves of garlic. You can finely mince this if you want. I'm not doing that because I prefer it to be grated. It's about 1 teaspoon. So that's perfect. Okay, let's get our garlic grated or minced or diced or whatever you want to do with the garlic. I'm just grating mine because it's easier. I don't even peel my ginger. I just wash it really well. And I never worry to peel my ginger. Today's just been one of those days. I've really just been out of it, really out of it. And that is why another reason why I love meatless meals, as on busy days and days where you just need a quick meal, it's something to put together in no time. Less dishes to wash, less things to prepare. Literally, it saves me about a half an hour to an hour in the kitchen on a meatless when I make meatless meals. Okay, I'm just going to use about a quarter of this onion. And it's already cut in half, or no, cut in a quarter. So just need about a quarter of an onion. You don't want too much onion because we've already got green onion going on in there. But quarter of a large onion. And I'm just going to dice this up real fine. Alright, that looks great. Great, great, great. As good as it's going to get right now. What I don't have in my list of ingredients, I have some red beans here and some spices, allspice, cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit of ground cumin we're going to add into it as well, salt and pepper, and our rice. I have 1.5 cups of basmati rice right here that I have rinsed. There's some cilantro in there because I usually rinse my cilantro in this as well, and my little strainer thingy there. It just works easily and less things to dirty and wash. Okay, so I don't have coconut milk in this dish. If you want to add coconut milk, to this, I recommend using a different type of rice. Something like a parboiled rice will go great with the coconut milk. The basmati rice does not go that well with the coconut milk. It's just too thick. If you want to use the coconut milk that's in a box, that's just more thin, straight up milk. A lot of times with the coconut milk in the can, it can just have like some cream of the coconut with the milk as well. So it's going to depend. If you are using something like basmati rice or white rice or whatever, I suggest straining your coconut milk if you are using canned coconut milk to remove most of the cream, because it's so thick that with this type of rice it can work. I've done it many times before. It can work and it will work, but your rice will be a little bit on the soggier side. I do love that coconut flavor, so you can add in some coconut flakes to this if you want, or you can make your own coconut milk, which I have done on this several times by soaking coconut flakes and blending it up and then straining that just to get some of that coconut flavor. I'm making something quick and easy today, so that's why I'm just going to be using some broth, some bone broth that I have. You can use vegetable stock, chicken stock, water, or again like coconut milk, or a mixture of coconut milk and water to thin it down. Strain out that cream though, especially if you're using something like basmati rice. So let's go ahead and put this whole thing together. This is as much prep as you really need to do. Let's go put this together. All right, so time for the voiceover. If you weren't expecting it, neither was I. I was hoping to do this without having to do a voiceover, but here we are. So about on medium-high heat or so, I'm going to add in some oil to my saucepan. I'm using about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. We're going to wait for that to kind of get a little bit warmed, and we're going to add in our ginger and garlic and onion. That's my oven preheating, but it's not for this recipe. I'm just making some cookies. But let's get back to this. So give that about 30 seconds, the oil, just for it to get nice and warm, and add in your garlic, your grated garlic, your ginger, and your onion. I could have used a bigger cutting board, so I did end up getting some cilantro in there as well, but you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Just get the onion, garlic, and ginger in there. We're going to toss this around in the oil just to kind of cook down and infuse the flavor into the oil for about maybe 30 seconds to a minute or so. Give this a nice toss-a-roo. And just let those flavors kind of infuse. In the meantime, I'm going to rinse and drain my red beans that I have, a can of red beans, and just get everything ready to go. It takes about maybe 20 to 30 minutes to throw this meal together, including prep time. It's really easy, and that's why I love a good meatless meal, because it's so easy. So while this is really nice and we're just infusing all those flavors into the oil, we're just going to start adding in our spices. Now, the spices are really important because it's what gives you that amazing like jerk flavor, but you want to be careful with the amount of spices that you use. For example, you don't want to put too much cinnamon because we are not making apple pie rice, we are making jerk rice. I will have all the amounts below in the description box for you, so just be careful with the amount of spices that you use. You definitely don't want to use too much. We're going to be using first off some allspice here. This is a really important flavor in jerk chicken, so you kind of need the allspice. I have some ground allspice. Again, I'll have all the amounts listed below for you. We're also going to add in some ground cinnamon. Not too much. I find that's one spice that people can just add a little bit too much cinnamon and just can overpower the whole dish. So you don't want too much of that. It's ground cinnamon as well as a little bit of ground nutmeg. Toss that around in the oil because you also want that oil to awaken all of those flavors. You're also going to need to add a good amount of black pepper to this as well. And of course, salt to season your rice. And I'm adding in some ground cumin. Traditionally, I don't really use cumin when I'm making jerk chicken. However, it does add such a beautiful flavor along with everything else that I definitely like to add it to my jerk rice. just let all those flavors awaken in the oil. You don't want your heat on too high because you don't want anything to burn. But just give all those things a toss and let the flavor awaken. I don't know if you can hear my clock again. But yeah, it's every time. I tell you every time. Now I'm adding in some brown sugar. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This is also going to give you such a beautiful balance of flavors. Amazing. I don't know. It's so easy, but it's so flavorful. It's good. Toss that all around. Give it about 30 seconds or so. We don't want any sugar to brown or anything like that. We just want those flavors to come together and mingle. And we're going to go ahead and add in our rice. I've already rinsed my rice really well until the water came clear. This is 1.5 cups of basmati rice. If you want to make this as a great side as well, you can, of course. However, this is a good enough meal for me as it is. It's got my protein, the beans in there. It's got really great flavor. And you can serve with things like plantains or provisions like your sweet potatoes or whatever you want on the side, a salad or anything like that. And you've got yourself a great meal. I am tossing together my rice with everything to make sure everything is really well incorporated. Season generously. Want to make sure every layer is seasoned, okay? You want everything to taste good. Add in my canned beans there, and what I'm doing is I'm actually toasting my rice. It gives it a little bit of extra flavor, and I always love to just toast my rice just a little bit before adding in my liquid. Just toss it every so often to make sure nothing is burning or sticking to the bottom of your pot. Now you also need some thyme for this rice. Thyme is another important ingredient and flavor in jerk chicken. What I have here is some of these, I believe it's called French thyme or pudina. There's a lot of different names for it, but it has the flavor of thyme in there, very similar to the sprigs that you get in the grocery store, the sprigs of thyme with the little tiny leaves on it. That is English thyme. I'm just going to take this one leaf and just place it in when I add in my liquid. If you're using English thyme, which is those sprigs, you can just plop about 2 to 3 sprigs in your liquid to just kind of infuse while it's boiling away into your rice and your liquid. You can also use dried thyme if that's what you have. However, fresh thyme is always best for me. And I'm adding in my liquid. Again, I am using bone broth. Go ahead and use any kind of just water, coconut milk, stock of your choice, whatever you have, a bouillon cube. Just mix it all together to make sure everything is incorporated and sitting there. We're going to add in our green onions and half of our cilantro as well as our thyme leaf into this liquid. And then we're going to wait for it to come up to a boil and cook it down like just regular rice. Add in my green onions as well as half of my cilantro. I'll be adding in the other half towards the end. Give that a nice mix to make sure all that's running through. Wait for this to come up to a boil. My heat, I just bumped it up to high. Wait for it to come up to a boil. When it does come up to a boil, just cover it up. Turn your heat all the way down to low and let it cook for 15 to 20 minutes, depending especially if you're using coconut milk, because that could be a bit thicker of a liquid. But with just regular liquid, it should take about 15 to 20 minutes. It took 15 minutes for me or so, around 15-minute marks. I removed my lid. I'm going to turn my heat off. I'm just going to fluff this up with a fork. I also added in my remaining extra cilantro before I fluffed it, so that as I'm fluffing it, that cilantro just goes throughout all of the rice. And you can't really see it here, so I try to zoom in a little bit to show you, but oh my goodness, guys. You can see all of the flavors running through the rice, the allspice and the cinnamon and everything. Don't forget to remove your thyme sprigs or your thyme leaf out of your rice. Just continue fluffing your rice until everything is just fluffed up. And that's it. Remove it from your heat and you're done. Taste for seasoning. If you need to add a little bit of salt, I did need to add a little bit more salt to mine. But it's so easy. It's so easy, right? And you got yourself a really great meal. We served this with some plantains. I put some cucumbers on the side. You can also do like avocados. Oh my goodness, that would be so good. If I had any, I would have served this with some avocados, but I don't. So what I also did towards the end here, and what you can do, is actually cook this with a hot pepper, Scotch bonnet or habanero pepper. What I did was I just plopped one in and kind of just tossed it around the rice, let the kind of flavor boil in. Because I have little ones, I'm very careful with cooking their food with hot pepper. I know if I don't pop it or anything like that, it's just going to lend slightest bit of flavor to it. And I just tossed it and let the heat kind of just, sit around in the rice a little bit, lend itself a little bit of flavor to it. And that's it. But you can cook it with the hot pepper if you want to, or you can even put some hot sauce. You do what you want to do, okay? It's delicious either way. It's super easy. That's a win-win for me. Give it a try. I hope that you do, and I hope that you enjoy it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.